If you are an introvert and socially awkward and don't love talking to people, but you have to because you've made it your job.
I've never driven like that before. It was terrifying. Like, I don't know about that, man. This is a little secret. This is a secret tip. She didn't find a home at the market, but in a way, yes, she did. And they're super stinking cute, if I do say so myself. This was kind of a slow year for this show, which makes sense because it's kind of a slow year in life.
Good morning. It's Harvest Fest Day. I'm so excited. This is an event that I used to go to when I was a kid just to attend. I'm so excited to be vending here. I love this event. It's so fun. My husband's taking my son to his grandmother's. He didn't want to come today. Sometimes he likes to come, and we call him our visual merchandiser because he's 7 and he's a kid and he knows where things look good for kids. So pro tip, if you're a vendor, hire a 7-year-old and pay them in stuffies. Didn't want to come today, that's fine. So he's getting dropped off, then we're gonna go. We had the opportunity to set up yesterday, like set up the tent and stuff, but we didn't end up doing it. We didn't think we needed that much time. So this morning, we're taking 2 different cars because I made so much stuff, which is probably a good thing I didn't set up last night. I would have filled up my car with the tables and tents and set up, and then I would have refilled my car up with this, thinking everything fit, and then coming home, we would have been in trouble. Sweetie girl, no dogs allowed. No dogs allowed. I'm sorry. Also, you're not that nice at festivals. You get kind of barky. I'm wearing my Blue Healer tarot card shirt, which I wear to almost all my markets because here's another tip. If you are an introvert and socially awkward and don't love talking to people, but you have to because you've made it your job, wear a fun t-shirt because people will talk to you about your puppy tarot card t-shirt. Definitely should have set up yesterday for sure. We finished setting up just in time. I have a couple more things to put out. I need to put hooks on the grid wall, put some signs up. We're mostly good, but people are starting to come in. Hot. It's hot, hot, hot. First half hour and booth fee has been more than made up. A lady picked up my $70 mousse, looked at the price tag, didn't blink and purchased it. So this is gonna be a good one. Listen to me. If you don't listen to anything else I ever say, get grid walls for your mid-range items. They are going gangbusters.
The day we were doing the market, it was 85 degrees. We were sweating doing setup and breakdown. And then today we woke up and it was 57 degrees inside our home, inside the house. That was a very fun event. It was jam-packed start to finish. I didn't get to record really much of anything when I was there. I was definitely stressed going into this event because times are tough right now. People aren't buying as much stuff, and any event that I had earlier this year, they were all not very good. Not a lot of people buying anything. So I was a little nervous going into this one because October is typically the start of business picking up and things being good for the holidays. So if this one ended up being not as good, I didn't have high hopes for the rest of the year. Spoiler alert, this was a very good event. Day started a little rough. We got there and my spot was taken. So I had to go find someone who worked for the event. I ended up finding the coordinator. And I was like, I can't find my spot. I think someone's in it. Tosses me into her golf cart over tree roots. We were flying. I was hanging on like this. I've never driven like that before. It was terrifying. Someone else was in my spot. She put me in that other person's spot. Like we just swapped. It was fine. There's no bad spots at this event. Everything's in the same place. Everyone walks to every booth. There's truly no bad spots. In this new spot, I was directly across from another crocheter. Fortunately, her style was very different from mine. Hers was more rustic. Her main thing seemed to be Afghans, and then the amigurumi were like lower price impulse buy. items. So we were doing very different things. So it looked like it was going okay for both of us. That's a really good example of why it's important to have your own style and your own branding when you're doing shows like this, because there's always going to be other crocheters. But if you can kind of stand out as your own thing, it's always going to work out better for everyone. We got all set up. It took longer than I wanted. We definitely should have done it the day before since we had the opportunity, but we got a little bit full of ourselves. I got everything set up as the gates were open. My husband was walking things back to the car and he was texting me that like it was before 10 and cars were already lined up. This is a very high traffic event. I made my booth fee back in the first half hour and then some, and it was a steep booth fee this time around. The first two people who came to our booth, it was a little boy and his dad, and he was looking around and he saw my candy corn little kittens and he thought they were cute, and he said, "Do you have any sushi cats?" And I said, "I don't have sushi cats, but what a good idea that is. I should have sushi cats." And he's like, "When I come back, you'll have some sushi cats for me." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know about that, man." And then he came back about an hour later and he's like, "Where are my sushi cats?" I will 112% have sushi cats next time. I already made some. He was right. They're adorable. These are by Meg Makes Patterns or Meg Makes Crochet. I'm going to link everything I mention in a blog post that I'll link in the description. The first customer I had for the day was a woman who saw my big $70 mousse and she picked it up. She's like, "My friend would love this." And I was like, oh, she's gonna look at the price tag and put it back, because that's how it always goes with the bigger items. Instead, she looked at the price tag, she didn't flinch, she bought it immediately. This is kind of a good example of why if you confront the money, you shouldn't be afraid of events with higher booth fees, provided that the event is established and reputable. This was a 4-hour market and I paid $165 to do it, which is a lot. That's high for any market, never mind one that short. As you'll see later when I do the breakdown, it was fully worth it. I've done shows that I've paid $40 or $50 to vend at and ended up losing money. It's also, okay, maybe it's tacky to say this. This is a little secret. This is a secret tip. If you think this is tacky, I'm sorry. Okay. Pick markets in more affluent areas. Normally it's minis that sell at any event because, you know, they're $10, $15, $20. They're easy to grab. I sold a lot of bigger items. I sold some $50 items, and my mid-range items, 25 to 35, they sold just as well as my minis do at other events. Before I tell you everything that sold, let's head back to last week's video where I did inventory, because there was a good deal of unintentional foreshadowing in there. All right, I'm gonna watch this as I comment on it. These guys always sell pretty well. I sold like 2. Whales and sharks. I think I mentioned before these are my best sellers. I didn't even put the whales and sharks out this time. I had so much stuff on my table, it was so chaotic. I just left them in the bag. I didn't put them out. Axolotls are always a hit. I have 1 mini axolotl left, and the medium size axolotl snugglers, I sold 6 out of 8. They were flying. I will sell usually 1 or 2 per show. I sold exactly 1 pony. I have 2 of these dragons, like that classic Jellycat clouds and rainbow colorway. Tween girl told me they looked just like Jellycats and I felt really validated. He had a twin. My cousin stopped by with his little girl and she picked out the flamingo, which is funny because she's a twin. This guy's been around forever because he's like $50, but again, he had a couple other ones who were just like him and they sold. He sold. Yeah, he sold. He's gone. If he never sells, I'll keep him. That's fine. I can't keep the moose because, as I mentioned, he sold immediately. She's gonna need like a very specific home. Someone saw her in an Instagram post and messaged me and bought her. So she didn't find a home at the market, but in a way, yes, she did. He's one, again, I don't necessarily expect him to sell. He's $95. I don't expect him to sell, but his job is bringing people in. Big Pitbull didn't sell, which of course not. He had a ton of interest. People came up genuinely asking about him, very sincerely asking how much he was and like thinking about it. A couple people took business cards to email me about customs of their own dogs from seeing this guy. He did his job. He's a good boy. Apparently nobody wants a black cat. I'll put them with my Halloween stuff. I forgot to put the black cats out. They got mixed in with the dogs and I just didn't put them out. Sorry, black cats, that one's on me.
No one ever buys these.
3 snakes. Pumpkin man. My other cousin came with her little boy and he picked out the pumpkin man, and now I get pictures texted to me of him snuggling with the pumpkin man. I'm so happy. I guess I should include these guys too. What's the point of that? Like, what's wrong with just selling what's here? As I said, the axolotls, I sold 6 out of 8. The only ones left are the pineapple and the kiwi. I'll definitely need to make more of those for the holidays. And these birds are funny because I sold a few birds, and actually the only birds I sold are the ones in this shot. Look how cute she is. She's old. His head's on crooked though, so I may give him eyes and then sell him at a discount. I went to put eyes on him and decided he was too messed up, so I'm just logging him as a loss, unfortunately. It happened. Aren't they cute? 2 out of 3 donut cats, and they were very popular even with the people who didn't buy them. Attention grabber. He'll come with us. I sold 2 of the calf snugglers, the one black and white that I just showed, as well as the fluffier Highland cow one. The one that was slightly less, he was fuzzy, but like slightly less fuzzy, he's still around. I'm gonna look at my spreadsheet and I'm going to tell you everything that sold from the most to the least. And I'm going to rapid fire it because when other YouTubers do markets, I love to hear what sells, but it gets boring fast. So I'm just gonna. Mini axolotls, we sold 6 for $10. Axolotl snugglers, 6 $25 a piece. Capybara in a hat blind box, 5 at $20 a piece. Ghost keychains, 4 at $8. Birds, 4 at $12. Snakes, 3 at $20. Mini capybaras, 3 at $18. Jubilee dragon snugglers, 3 at $30. Build a ghost, 3 at $12. One was a plain ghost, one had a bow headband, one had a flower headband. 2 mini possums, that was weird, those always sell out. 2 mini loaf cats, both the candy corn ones. The regular cats I had no interest. 2 out of 3 donut kitties at $15 a piece. I'm sorry, the ghosts were $12. The bow and the headband were like 8 and 6. Possum is 9 and the loaf kittens were 12. Little mini baby cows, 2 at 18. Chunky mushroom men, 2 at 9. Calf snuggler, 2 at 30. Camera stopped recording. Try that again. Apparently I sold a witch hat for the Build-A-Ghost. I don't remember doing that, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. My memory is garbage. Witch hat was $7. I sold a skull keychain for $8. One of the Stitch Chronicles dog for $20. Pumpkin man for $35. The pumpkin cat from last year at $35. One pig at $18. The moose at $70. One of the Mama Made mini dogs at $50, and one of the cows at $50. A moth keychain at $18. 2 mini ghosts for $7. Maple the fox for $35. Mini candy corn for $7. A mini bat for $7. A medium loaf dog for $18, and a big loaf dog at $22. One of the fluffy hedgehogs at $40. Showed you from last year the big ghost who had the witch hat sewn on. He sold at $25. A frog keychain at $8. Flamingo at $25. Flower frog at $15. The big jellycat dragon, I sold the blue one. He was $40. The duck with the floaty sold for $50. A chicken at $12. Mini cauldron at $9. A bat at $35. A bunny also at $35. A mini chonky bat at $12. And 1 rainbow pony for $35. Some of the things that were the most surprising were, again, that I sold so many of the $50 plus items. Usually I'll sell a couple of those at a holiday market where people will buy them as gifts. I wasn't expecting it for this one, but I'm not going to complain. Like I mentioned, my mid-range items went crazy, and I think that's because of the grid wall, which I'll come back to. Axolotls were far and away the biggest hit. I'll need to make so many more of those for the holidays. The capybaras did well, as they always do. Surprisingly, the possums, I only sold 2. Usually I will sell out of possums because they're only 9 and they're super stinking cute, if I do say so myself. The mushrooms usually sell better. I sold 2 mushrooms, but I usually sell a lot more of those. Like I said in the last video, I think I need some more like jewel toned fall and winter colors. Those are more on the pastel side. So I may add some of those in the future, but I don't know, I might also be done with mushrooms. We'll see. Here are the new things I tried. Blind boxes. These drew a lot of attention because I put them right at the front of the booth and they're very colorful and iridescent. Also, blind boxes are very popular right now anyway. A lot more people wanted them than actually bought them. I think a lot of times people were kind of adverse to the mystery element, especially if you have kids. If you have a kid and they love it and they're looking at the box, even if they understand the mystery element, it's difficult not to be disappointed if you don't get the one that you want. And I think a lot of parents were steering their kids away from the mystery element for that reason, which is totally fair. I do the same with my kid. My kid loves blind boxes, and every time he gets one, we do a full-blown lecture about what mystery means. Can't get upset with what you get. It's a whole thing, so I fully understand that. I think that one thing that did help them is that I don't sell that particular item anywhere else on my table. I think sometimes when people do mystery boxes or blind boxes at a crochet booth, they will pack up their small items in a box and sell them as mysteries, but then you can also get it somewhere else at the table. I think that's a good strategy because then you can kind of see what does better, whether it's the mystery element, whether people want to pick it out. But I think one of the things in favor for this particular bag charm was I wasn't selling them anywhere else. If they wanted it, it had to be the mystery box. I also added a keychain display. That was also in the front, and I sold a few keychains, and I think people were interested because it was a spinning rack. That being said, it was the cheapest one I could find just to try it out, and it looked like the cheapest one I could find. If I were going to make more keychains, I would definitely want to get a better one, maybe a standalone one that I could put just outside my tent. The keychains were really cramped on this one, so I think I could have done a lot better on keychains had the display been slightly different. This is my first event that I did grid wall, and this was the big winner of the whole thing. This is why I sold, I think, so many of the mid-range items. I have 6 grid wall panels, and I put them 3 in a row, 2 down, and we zip tied them to the tent. Unfortunately, it did kind of bend the tent a little bit, so we're going to order bases to slide them into so that they're standing on the ground, and then we'll still tie them to the tent to keep them secure. However, the brunt of the weight won't be on the tent. On these 3, for let's say 3 panels, we had very deep shelves on 2 of them where we were able to display the bigger items. On the one panel closest to the front of the tent, that's where we put hooks. So we put hooks coming out of it, and I sewed little hooks onto the back of the mid-range items. We made a point to put very colorful items right at the front. Some of the fur yarn, anything that was going to be eye-catching, we put there because as you're walking by, that's the first thing you see from that direction. They were a huge hit. They were very eye-catching. They drew people in. Even if people didn't buy those items, it kind of directed the flow into the tent. It took them through these colorful mid-range items, then to the bigger ones, and then as you go around, that's where all the minis are. So that was a huge hit. We sold a lot of pieces that I don't think we would have sold without that particular display. I'm going to link to the ones that I got in the description of my blog post. I think they're absolutely worth the investment, especially since in terms of packing things up in your car to go, they take up hardly any room. The shelves are kind of bulky, but you don't have to do those. You could do the hooks, and I think that would be just as good. I had to bring one less table because I had the grid wall, and they took up less space in the car. So I don't know. I really enjoyed having those. Something new I tried this time was I offered 10% off with an email sign up. I had a sheet for people to put their name and their email, and then I would just check off that discount in my Square system. I've never sent out a newsletter, but from what I understand about social media, it is very important to have your own email marketing list. You know, any social media platform can go away at any time, but you own your email list. Even if I never send anything out, I'm going to try to start a newsletter. If you want to sign up for it, I'll put something on my website. I'll put a little sign up box on my website. I'll try to send out maybe monthly newsletters. So many people were willing to sign up, not even just for the discount. People who were excited about my booth were excited to hear more in the future, potentially. A lot of people signed up even before I mentioned the discount. And of course, it's always a possibility that you'll send a newsletter and they'll unsubscribe. But these are people who are already buying from me, and they're people who are in the area that I do the most markets. So they're likely to be return customers either in person or online. Sushi Cat's dad signed up, so now I can let him know where I'll be with Sushi Cats. I definitely need a better display for my minis. I got some things yesterday at the store that I might try a different setup, but it was just kind of chaos. Everything's in baskets, none of them match. There's no cohesion. There's too much to look at. My next show that I'm gonna focus on what I'm doing with that mini setup. I also might move the mini ghost display closer to the front. The people who saw the mini ghosts really loved the display. They thought they were so fun. They were excited about them. But most people missed it because it was closer to the back of the tent, right by checkout. To have an interactive thing like that at the front of the tent might draw people in the first place. So for my next event, I'm going to potentially move the mystery boxes from the front closer to the checkout where they can be more of an impulse purchase, and then the Build-A-Ghost display at the front so that people can be drawn in by it. It's tough to decide what should get that real estate at the front of the tent. Let's do the finance breakdown before I run out of battery. My total revenue for the day was $1,657.50. Of that, $97.50 is state tax that I'm gonna have to pay at the end of the quarter. I also gave out $59.60 in discounts, included a family and friends discount for a few people who came by, and then the 10% discount for the email signups. I got a full 2 pages of email addresses, so in my mind, that's a reasonable price to pay. My booth fee was $165. The Square fees came to $10.90. The Venmo to $12.88. I always buy a craft fair insurance policy at $49. Our mileage came to $5.06 for the day, making my total expenses $399.94. I'm gonna break that down a little further. One thing to note, you do need to save money for income taxes. However, because I do online and market, that's something that I account for separately. I don't account for it in each market. I account for it like all together at the end of the year. And that's mostly because my expenses are all over the place. Income comes from different places. It's not a per market situation for me. So my revenue minus expenses was $1,257.56. Of that, $254.65 accounts for the materials that I used for everything that's sold. $937.49 is wages for the amount of time it took me to make the things that sold. So my profit back into the business is $65.43. I'm going to stage my business. Everything goes back into business. I am not receiving wages, but I think that's important to keep track of when you are making enough money to pay yourself, when you are making enough profit to put back in the business separately. It's important to have that breakdown. It's just interesting. It doesn't really matter ultimately at this point, but it's interesting. I sold 81 items and the average order for the day was $20.46. Also, as a reminder of how important it is to have different ways for them to pay, to accept cash, to accept cards, Apple Pay, tap on your phone, to accept Venmo. My breakdown for the day, of those sales, 40% paid with Venmo, 39% paid with cash, and 21% paid with card. There were a few points on the day when the internet went down, when people paid with cash and Venmo when they were going to pay with card. But again, that's why it's important to offer so many options, is that if your card reader can't connect at that moment, you won't necessarily lose the sale. I made just under 10 times my booth fee, which is sort of my most basic metric for if the show was worth it. I will absolutely want to do this one next year. I heard other vendors saying this was kind of a slow year for this show, which makes sense because it's kind of a slow year in life. If I'm able to do it next year, I will absolutely be back. That was such an awesome way to start off market season. My next shows coming up are October 18th in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and October 26th in Norwood. I have more details on my website, on my event page. I also just added a new show in Weymouth on November 5th. And then in December, I'm doing a 2-day show in Easton at their holiday festival and a 2-day show in Meredith, New Hampshire, which I'm super excited about. This is a giant event. If you're local, I would love to see you at these events. I would love if you could come say hi. If you're not local, I have an online shop and an Etsy. And if something's not posted in my shop or my Etsy and you love it, shoot me a message. I can probably work it out with you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking with me about my last market. And I hope to see you next week. Bye. I said, give me a break, kid. Grid ball. Ooh, okay. And they were easy to see. And shelves. You know how shelves work.